And if you think back about a year ago, I think about that time, I had traded 2 cases of beer for a couple of Hondas, 125s. And one of them I got running rather quickly. You know, there was really no problem with it. And the other one had this Lifan motor in it, the Chinese replacement for, it's a 200cc replacement for the 125 Honda engine. Now, when I took this apart, the motor was stuck and I couldn't figure it out because it really hadn't looked like it hadn't been run at all. It looked like it had never really been connected. You know, you just had it kind of sitting in there. Well, when I tore it apart, I found that he had left the motor sitting in storage without a spark plug in and without the ports being plugged. And moisture had got in there, and just a little bit of rust it had stuck the rings. Otherwise, it was a new motor. So I was thought, I should do something with it sometime. Well, now I got all them other Hondas. So I figured it was time to actually put this motor back together. You know, I thought about parting it out because, like I say, it's all new parts. But parts are available for these, so I went online and I was just going to buy rings and a gasket set and reuse the piston because, like I say, it really is new. But, you know, there's really not much rust in there. But it was going to cost me like $20 for the rings and the gaskets. For $30 I could get a whole new piston and the rings and the gaskets. So that is what I did. Just had to wait for it to come from China. But now I have to make sure this is the right piston. Oh, them Chinese know how to pack stuff. And there's the rings. Yeah, that looks like the same piston. You know, because I didn't want to accidentally get like an overbore. Though I don't know that they ever overbore them. You know, they're a cheap motor in the first place. Piston pin. Well, man, she's going to take a little honer to fit. She might be that I have an oversize. Well, that's all right. I can certainly bore it out. Yeah, because I think this was supposed to be the right one, but I think it was like, what was it, 62.5 millimeter, and the stock one might be 62, so it might be just a little bit bigger. But, like I said, there really isn't, you know, it was rusted in here, but there really isn't pitting, it's just surface rust. But it wouldn't hurt to bore it out to get this to fit. Though I have to figure out what the fitment is on these. You know, not much of a... I'm not a big fan of the Chinese motors, but usually the problem you have with them is in like the ignition or in the carburation. Well, this is supposed to use the regular Honda carburetor, though I do happen to have a brand new Mikuni that I can bolt on there. You know, so, and Mikunis I'm used to working with. Much better carburetor, very flexible carburetor. But like I say, it really hasn't been run. It just was neglected. It's funny when you look at, this is a head off one of my 500s, And now look how much smaller, like the valves and stuff on this, it's just ridiculous. You know, it looks weird to see it that small. Otherwise, design pretty much the same. But no, I'll have to, I know a guy who can bore that if that's the route I decide to take. Yeah, I really wouldn't even have had to replace the piston. Well, I'm going to pull this apart and check that out though. Make sure that, because sometimes they can get rusted in the grooves, though they seem to be free. But like I say, this is all just from sitting. You know, there's no wear on the rock, because I'm sure it's never been fired. Somebody bought it with the intention of fixing a old Honda by replacing it with this aftermarket motor. But they are good in it. They got the clutch, and I think it's a 5-speed transmission. And this actually is set up for an electric start. I'll have to do some checking ignition-wise. You know, that's a whole different system. They use a CDI, but they are available. Well, I should check though and see. Because if I have to, I can always order the standard piston. This might be, you know, I was under the impression this was the standard, but that's no way going to fit. It's got to be bored, which is probably the way to go, really. Get more cubic inches out of her. But that's a kind of a joke, you know, to go from a 125 to a 200. You know, that's a pretty big jump. Of course, like with my 500s, it's not uncommon to bore them and stroke them out to get 650 out of them. But this little Mikuni, like I say, it's a brand new one, but it's smaller than what I run on my 500s. So, but I always hung on to it because it's a brand new one. It's funny, it says, not for aircraft use. Well, I ain't going to be flying. But I'll see if I can't get this together sometime. But I'll have to take my mic and actually check and see how much. This could be that this is the oversize. But, like I say, by boring it, I could get rid of that. Any possible rust problems. But I really don't need to make this thing too fancy. I'm just trying to make some kind of a mongrel thing that would run and roll.